Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. As you guys already know, I have been piloting the Centurion deck for this past format. Before I tried to play Centurion, the deck I would have played for this format and the format prior was Tearlament. Uh, that's not to say that Tearlament is not like a really good bad deck in the format at the moment. However, there are a lot of problems that just makes me uh like stay away from Tearlaments as my main strategy of choice. And I kind of want to talk about that because I feel like this strategy is not really power crept by the power of the decks in the format. It's more power crept in the fashion that the trend people are leaning towards in order to play properly this format are what's going to be hindering this strategy the most. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm gonna be showing you the ratios of what I would be doing in my tier limit strategy if I were to play at this format, and then talk about a few things that I probably would not have been doing, and give my general consensus of why is Tearlaments not the most favorable pick for me specifically throughout this format. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. We'll start with the Tearlament ratios. Um, we have 3-3-3. We have 2 Pro Rhino, and we have triple Scream and triple Soliac. And then we have the 1 Meta Noise. So I think you have to play the 9 monsters. I don't think that's a debate. Some people lean on just playing 2 Rhino Heart, but I feel like as long as these are limited and as long as Kit Kalos is gone, you kind of have to max out on as many of the monsters. These are the only monsters we have on of the archetype available. So unless we get another tier limit monster, these are like pretty much the ones that we're just gonna have to contend with. Um, the reason I don't max out on Proto Rhino is because there are other cards in the engine or in the strategy that I would be playing that just circumvent the issue of you having not having the max amount. The other thing is Draw and Lockbird is super popular in this format, either in the main or in the side deck, meaning that this card is pretty much a detriment. You're going to be noticing that I won't have terraforming on this list. However, there are other consistency cards that I will be playing in this list in the order to circumvent that. I strongly am an advocate for Scream and Soliac. I feel like you kind of want to max out on these because not only are these cards that you kind of want to open with, but at the same time these are all really good mills because they're essentially plus ones if they resolve. When you're going second, TLMS Screen is really good because it helps you chain block in order to try to apply pressure onto your opponent. And if you're going first, then this just also applies pressure because you're going to be just milling more your cards more and more consistently. I was never a fan of Meta Noise in the main deck. I didn't like Meta Noise as a card. However, with the existence of transaction rollback, I feel that Meta Noise adds a little bit more value into this into the main deck because in the options you end up milling this card. You can just use transaction rollback for the graveyard effect, and added to that, it also has the graveyard value of recurring your tier limit monsters if you mill it mid to late game. And in some gameplay scenarios, this card it can be a blowout against certain matchups. So that's it for the tier limit ratios. So These are trap cards that I've been considering, been playing in the tier deck. If you've seen past Tearlament deck profiles that I've done, I've been doing a few of them that involve like a lot of trap cards. Um, the first one I'm gonna talk about is Transaction Rollback. I feel that outside of Labyrinth, this is pretty much the second best deck that can utilize this card. Uh, because you are a mill strategy, meaning that you're going to have this card readily available in your graveyard. As I mentioned beforehand, it has synergy with Meta Noise, and Meta Noise is a card that can like start your plays. Adding to that, we have other cards that really benefit out of this card and make with the existence of transaction rollback, cards like Needlebug Nest are now a little bit more powerful because that means your mills in your deck can be way more consistent. Since we lost the Chizu mill cards, we don't have many cards that just mill out of our deck outside of our own engine. So just playing a card like Needlebug Nest kind of circumvents that. And you can make the argument that this is a trap card, so it's not as strong going second. It kind of makes your hands a little bit clunky if you're trying to fight through boards. However, as I mentioned beforehand, if you play transaction rollback in your deck, at least a certain amount of them, then it kind of circumvents the ability of Needlebug Nest. And if you Needlebug Nest into transaction rollback, you can just roll back, banish another Needlebug Nest, and that's already 10 cards shaved out of your main deck. And just milling 10 cards is just extremely powerful. Trivi Karma, I think is a no-brainer. You kind of have to play this in Tearlaments. Uh, so now we're going to talk about three other cards. One other card that I feel like it should be mandatory in Tearlaments moving forward is the Black Goat Who Laughs, or the Black Goat Laughs. Uh, Black Goat is an incredibly powerful card. Uh, doesn't matter if you mill it or you open it. It's a really strong trap card. You can use rollback to copy like the floodgate effect, and then just banish it to copy like the prevention effect, which is another really cool thing that you can do. If you're going second and you're trying to fight through an opponent's board, one card that we are playing in the main deck is Foolish Burial Goods. So Foolish Burial Goods sending Black Goat essentially means that you can freeze an opponent's monster that is currently on the board that can be problematic for you. More on goods a little bit later. But yeah, if you're playing tournaments, you should really play this card at least in your side deck, if not your main deck. A card that I talked about in the past is Fiend Comedian. Again, we don't have a lot of cards that help us mill cards, and this is just one card that kind of can do that. You're only playing one copy because you don't want to open multiples of this card, despite it not being once per turn. Uh, Another really cool thing about this card is we are in a format where great the more stronger strategies are graveyard reliant. So if you want to like threaten your opponent out of their own graveyard while also benefiting you with a surplus of mills, this card can be a blowout in some scenarios. Like, let's say, for example, you're going second against the Snake Eye deck or a Snake Eye variant. If you open this card and you end up resolving it, like, this card can really just swing the tempo of the game immediately because they're going to have a lot of cards in their graveyard by the time you're trying to resolve this. And just getting rid of their entire graveyard or you milling the amount of the cards that they have in their graveyard is just really strong. The last trap card I want to talk about is Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. I think this card is going to have its own video like later. However, I kind of want to talk about this card because we are playing multiple spell cards, field spells, the Pelorino. Uh, Shout out to Z on Monday. He topped like a German event playing this engine alongside the Horus package. And this is another card that just works super well with Rainbow Bridge, because Imperial Tombs has a downside of you equalizing your hand in order to like get access to your Horus monsters. However, with the Rainbow Bridge, you mitigate that issue by just putting back whatever you added alongside with Rainbow Bridge, or just put back any other brick that you had in your hand that you just don't want to see moving forward. Um, I feel like the Horus engine is really strong in this deck, so I'm going to transition into talking about that engine. Uh, so there are two debates here. You can either play the Horus engine, or you can play the Punks, or you can play both. Uh, there's no real wrong answer here. Uh, I feel like these two engines are to be respected. The one thing that the Punk engine has over the Horus engine is the ability of summoning Baron the floor. And not only are you summoning Baron the floor, but you're also summoning Menacing Mantis. And Menacing Mantis gives you access to Fusion Parasite. And having access to Fusion Parasite means that the ceiling of your fusion summons with your Tearlaments monsters just becomes a lot higher because you have the ability to summon Rule Kalos as well as Grapha. And there are other monsters that you can play here, like Invoke Caliga. So yeah, like there's no real wrong answer here. I feel like both engines are really strong. Both engines don't have that many bricks on them either. Uh, they function almost essentially the same, despite having a few notable differences, like the Synchro monsters. One thing that I will mention about the Horus engine is that in the grind game, these cards are going to be way more powerful than the Punk engine. However, yeah, starting your plays, the Punk engine is going to be way more potent. So you kind of have to pick and choose between like either have a better grind game or have a better turn one. So that's kind of it for these two engines. Um, so another engine that we have here is Fenrir and Pressure Planet. Some people like playing a certain amount of these. I feel like just Fenrir is fine in my opinion. If you are playing the Rainbow Bridge engine, you can make the contingency plan or the consensus of playing the Pressure Planet. Uh, Dangers are not mandatory in this deck. However, Nessie is an Aqua monster, and you don't have enough Aqua monsters in your deck. Uh, and Aqua monsters are very important because no matter what Tearlaments strategy you're playing, you should actually consider Kaleido Heart be in your deck list. And if you're playing Kaleido Heart, that means that you have to make the contingency plan of just playing Aqua monsters, and Nessie is just a really good one. The same thing goes for Tortoise. Uh, Tortoise is the Aqua monster that you're playing, meaning that it gives you access to Kaleido Heart, uh, which is going to be your catalyst for your Rainbow Bridge. I don't have both Ishizu shufflers on me. However, if you are playing the Tearlament deck, I highly advocate for you to play in both. Um, so that's one thing that I have to mention. Uh, these cards are bricks in your hand. They don't really function really well like as part of you like progressing through your game. And since the Chizu Millers are gone, like you don't really have value if you end up drawing into both of them. Uh, However, the effect that these cards have are really really powerful. And in a format that we are like this one, you kind of want cards like these in order for you to progress through the game. I want to talk about foolish burial goods. Uh, so a lot of people have a lot of debates when it comes to either playing this card or not. I'm an advocate of the fact that you should be playing this card at the most amount in your tournament strategy. I'll explain the pros and cons. The pros of playing this card is that your tournament strategy is a lot more consistent in doing their plays. Uh, the caveat of this card is that it is a bad card to mill, and you want as many good mills in your deck as possible. I am a strong believer that you should be maxing out on this card, and my explanation is the following. I rather have bad mills in my tournament strategy than brick and not being able to play the game because I played too many engine requirements that were just good if they were be milled in my tournament strategy. Uh, I'd rather sacrifice a few bad mills than not being able to play the game. And this card is exceptionally powerful in this art in this deck. Just sending Rainbow Bridge of Salvation makes this card a +1, and not only does it make it a +1, it could even turn it into a +2. Uh, Having the ability of sending the Black Goat when you're going second makes this a very strong board breaking card as well. Being able to send Meta Noise to just retrieve cards back from your graveyard is also very strong. Being able to send Tearlaments Scream in order to just set up your Zodiac or your Meta Noise for next turn is also really strong. Being able to send Transaction Rollback is also another huge benefit out of this card. If you end up starting milling your cards and you end up milling into your other trap cards, then just having this, sending rollback, and having rollback just copy whatever trap card you need to activate or use and resolve, just gives infinite more value to this card. So if you are playing a tournament strategy, doesn't matter which one, I really highly recommend this card like at max copies. Uh, and the last card is Super Polymerization. Uh, Tearlaments is a deck that cannot afford to play hand traps, meaning that you kind of have to play another card in your main deck that just tries to like contest your opponent's boards. And Super Polymerization is just one of the better ones. You already play a fusion strategy, and it's a strategy that just benefits out of this card. So just having this as part of your engine is just very, very, very ideal. Now that I talked about all these engines, I kind of want to talk about the Visas engine real quick. I am not playing the Visas engine in this deck. I wouldn't be playing in this format. The number one reason is we're in a hand trap heavy format. And in a hand trap heavy format, this engine, as powerful as it is just going to like crumble apart, and it's not going to like be able to resolve as consistently. If we were still in a hand trap format, but at least not a heavier one like the one we have at the moment, this engine probably would have been a strong consideration, and probably would have been a priority over other engines that we have like at the moment. But at the time of this recording, we are in pretty much Snake Eye format, and until that format dwindles, these are just like the choices that I probably would be making. And now that leads into the Tearlament problem and why am I not playing in this format? The the name of the format is try to play a deck that can play as much non-engine as possible or play the Snake Eye deck. If you're not doing either of them, you're not going to be doing as successful this format because there's a lot of strategies that just play really well into board breakers. Uh, like branded is really popular. Voiceless voice is really popular. Uh, the Snake Eye variants. Then you have the shifter decks. Those are also really popular in the format. Um, Another thing to be worried about is because of the popularity of voiceless and branded. A lot of people are taking bestials in their side deck as well, and that's also detrimental to our strategy because bestials are one of the public enemies for Tearlaments, and it always has been ever since their inception. Uh, will we be in a format where Tearlaments are strong again? I think that if depending on how this format keeps shaping up, Konami might make notable changes that could benefit the tournament strategy. Another thing that we might have to take note of is that we there might be a future where we have cards that really bolster the tournament strategy as well. A good example of that is the Lightsworn support that comes in Legacy of Destruction. It's still soon to tell if that support is going to benefit tournaments or if tournaments benefit Lightsworns, which is the contrast to this equation. Uh, but uh, after you experimenting, you could find yourself realistically in a position where tournaments can be strong again. If the Fire King Snake Eye deck was not as powerful as it was at the moment, I would say this is a really strong contender because against Snake Eye Fire King, this deck is not really that horribly positioned. However, the ceiling of that deck is a little bit higher than than what we can do to contest it with this deck. But yeah, that has been my explanations. I hope you found this video informative and to your liking and understanding. More videos coming soon. Keep practicing and keep dueling.